All right, hello. We are looking at 7-5 polynomials today. The learning target is I can find the degree of a polynomial, identify the leading coefficient, and write it in standard form. All right, so fill in the target. We can start off with the warm-up problems. Hit pause and go ahead and apply some of the rules that you learned in early chapter 7 to simplify the following. All right, hopefully you had, if you didn't use the rules, you could always expand and find like terms to cancel. All right, so let's use the rules and we'll come up with the same exact answer. So I see like bases, c to the 3 minus 2 and d to the 2 minus 5. And that gets me c to the first, d to the negative third. Since I have a negative exponent, I'm going to write it as c over d cubed. So there is my final answer. And you could get that the exact same way. We have 1c remaining here and 3 c's remaining in the denominator. The two rules I used, the first one was quotient rule, where I subtracted the exponents of the like bases, and then I used the negative exponent rule, where my negative exponent was in the numerator and I kicked it downstairs to make it positive in the denominator. All right, letter B. Hopefully you got x to the 8th. And if you did here, remember x to the 4 times 2. That's your power rule. And if you decided to expand this, so it's x to the 4th times x to the 4th, and got x to the 8th that way, this was your product rule. All right, so that warm-up was all of the rules we learned in early chapter 7. So we're going to learn some terms here and talk about examples and identification. So first term is that a monomial has one term. All right, a monomial, if we think of the prefix mono, means one. So a monomial has one term. Examples, x, 3y, 4xy cubed. These are all monomials. A key is that there is no addition or subtraction symbols within a monomial. Okay? Even a number, -10, that's a monomial. All right, so monomial has one term. Binomial has two terms. Prefix bi means two. Now we start to see some addition or subtraction symbols. So how about x plus y? Right, there's two monomials together, makes it a binomial. 3y squared minus 4. Two terms. And then the third specific type of polynomial is a trinomial. And if you know what tri means 3. So a trinomial has 3 terms. So something like 2x squared plus x minus 20. That's an example of a trinomial. 3 monomials put together, right? 1, 2, 3. All right, so these are ways to classify polynomials, okay? So we have monomial, binomial, trinomial. Now, how to find the degree of a monomial? Remember, one term. What we do is we add the exponents on the variable bases. Okay, so only on the variable basis. We'll talk about what that looks like. Excuse me. Okay, so to find the degree of a monomial, we add the exponents on the variable basis. So if I look at my examples, A, B, C, so take a look at letter A. I have 4, p to the 4th, q to the 3rd. So there's a variable base. I'm going to circle the exponent of 4. I'm going to circle the exponent of 3. I don't worry about anything with that 4, okay? Because it's not a variable base. So to find the degree, I'm just going to add them. So we have a degree of 7. Okay, this is a monomial, degree of 7. Letter B. Hopefully you're placing an exponent of 1 on the E and an exponent of 1 on the D. And we should have a degree of 2. 1 plus 1. Okay, we would add those. And taking a look at C, well, there's no variable bases. So 0. Okay, so degree of 0. No variables. And I want you to add in letter D. What if you see something like 4 to the 6th power? Well, again, I don't see any variables. 4 to the 6th power, I could plug that in the calculator and see a value. There's no variables. Oh. So again, degree of 0. Okay? So to find the degree of a monomial, we add the exponents on the variables only. All right, so now we're going to talk about the umbrella term, polynomial. And poly, if you know what that prefix means, it means many or multiple. Okay? So a polynomial is a monomial or a sum or difference of monomials. So if I take a look at it, think about polynomial, right? If I skip the degree of the polynomial real quick, here's a polynomial, right? There's 2 terms, 2 monomials. It's a sum of 2 monomials. So we can call this a polynomial, or because we know we have 2 monomials, we can also call it a binomial, right? So this is actually a binomial or a polynomial. But again, more specifically, you can call it a binomial. All right, this one, we have 1, 2, 3 terms. So if I can name it any more specific, which I can call it a trinomial. All right? A polynomial is really used for when we have 4 or more monomials. All right? If we have 1, we call it a monomial, then 2, binomial, 3, trinomial, 4 more, polynomial. All right, so let's take a look here at the degree of the polynomial. So to find the degree of a polynomial, it's the term with the highest degree. So we need to be able to determine the degree of the monomial, and then whatever the highest is, that's the degree of the polynomial. So let's look at letter A. We know A is a binomial. Great, that's one way you can classify it. And I can take a look at the degree of each of my monomials. Well, here I just see x to the 7th, so the degree is 7 on this monomial. Here I see x to the 3rd, so this degree is 3. So what degree is it? It's the highest, right? Whenever somebody asks you later in life, well, what's your highest degree? If you're filling out a job application, you always say your highest degree. So your highest degree, either be a high school diploma, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, right? So you would always go with your highest degree. Same thing when we identify the degree of a polynomial. So this polynomial has a degree of 7. Letter B, remember I have a trinomial. Let's see what the degree of the monomials are here. Okay, well, I'm going to plug a 1 in for the exponent of 7. And 2 plus 1, that monomial has a degree of 3. Second one, I have 2z to the 4, so that has a degree of 4. And then negative 5 has a degree of 0. So my highest degree is 4. So this trinomial has a degree of 4. All right, so again, we have identified, if we look at the target, I can find the degree of a polynomial. Done. We're going to work on identifying the leading coefficient and writing a polynomial in standard form here. All right, so the next page, standard form of a polynomial. It's a polynomial that contains monomials, right? Cross off variables. Monomials written from highest degree to lowest degree. Okay. And then the leading coefficient is the coefficient of the first term after a polynomial is written in standard form. So these two go hand in hand. First, we have to write the polynomial in standard form, and then we can identify the leading coefficient. Let's look at letter A. We're asked to write each polynomial in standard form, then give the leading coefficient. So just as before, I'm going to first off 2 pencil mark trick, so I know that's a negative 7x to the 5th. I have 4 terms. How would we name this? Hopefully you said polynomial. All right, so let's find the degree on each monomial. So I have 6x, remember that's to the first. So my first term has a degree of 1. My second one has a degree of 5. My third term, my third monomial has a degree of 2. And then a degree of 0. So highest to lowest. So now we need to rewrite this. So we have the highest degree first. All right, so I'm going to remember that negative. So negative 7x to the 5th plus 4x squared plus 6x plus 9. So that's written in standard form, highest degree to lowest degree, and my leading coefficient is simply the coefficient on the first term. So my leading coefficient is negative 7. All right, let's check out B. I have some 2 pencil mark tricks I'm going to do, plus negative 4y to the 6 plus negative 3y. Again, let's find the degree of each monomial. My first one has a degree of 2. My second one has a degree of 6. And hopefully you wrote a 1 in on that y, so my third term has a degree of 1. Highest to lowest, I'm going to write negative 4y to the 6th plus y squared and plus negative 3y. Or if you did minus 3y, that's great. And again, my leading coefficient is simply my first number I see, negative 4. It's a coefficient of the first term after it's written in standard form. All right, now let's take a look here. It says classify each polynomial according to its degree. All right, so take a look here. I have this degree. All right, and then I also have 3 lines written underneath because I want to also classify it by the number of terms. Okay, so letter A, 5n cubed, that's a degree of 3. 4n, that's going to be a degree of 1. So my highest degree is 3. And I have 2 terms. 2 terms is going to be called a binomial. All right, let's look here. I got 4 terms. Well, 4 terms, if I classify it, is going to be a polynomial. And this has a degree of 6, degree of 3, degree of 1, degree of 0. My degree is 6. And letter C, negative 2x. First off, it's 1 term, so it's going to be a monomial. And I'm going to have a degree of 1 because that x has an exponent of 1. So there are ways to classify these polynomials. All right, by degree, and you'll see this chart on IXL. If it has a degree of 0, it's a constant. Okay? So think about a line, a straight line going across, right? A horizontal line is a constant, no change. If it has a degree of 1, it's linear. This is what we see in algebra 1, right? Meaning that let's x to the first power. Think about it. So y equals mx plus b. That x has a power of 1, linear. We got straight lines up or straight lines down. Straight lines. 2 is what you'll see more so in algebra 2. We call that a quadratic. Okay? And you'll actually see parabolas. You'll start to be graphing U's. All right, so that would mean there'd be a squared on the x. And cubic would mean that there's a cubed on the x, and that would be called cubic. And what you'll see are things called S-curves. Okay, so these two, right, quadratic and cubic, you're getting into algebra 2. We're going to work a little bit into quadratics at the end of chapter 7. Now, we can also classify by the number of terms. All right, in your name, you know these already. If you have one term, monomial. 2 terms, binomial. 3 terms, trinomial. And 4 or more, we just call a polynomial. All right, so thanks for watching your 7-5 notes, and I'll see you next time.